Welcome into Varsity Sports, your new go-to for college football. You see the thumbnail, you know why you're here. We make it quick, we make it easy. We love college football just like you do. So, we also enjoy talking FCS football because it is fantastic. Harvard and Yale. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe, by the way. And the algorithm loves a comment. Like I said, Harvard and Yale, that's why you're here if you care. But I think you should, and I will tell you why as we go. It's the 139th matchup, by the way, the third most played college football game ever. Fantastic. And by the way, this is the real game. I know Michigan and Ohio State is called the game, but this is the game. It's been played 20 more times. It was established 22 years before Michigan and Ohio State in 1875. So let's get into that. Yale leads 69-61 to 8. So, like I said, we got some old foes duking it out on the gridiron. And if you don't follow FCS football, you're like, well, how can these two schools be good? It's Harvard and Yale. There's no way they're good at football. I got news for you, buddy. Harvard has already clinched at least a share of the 2023 Ivy League title with their overtime win last week, and they look to clinch the outright title this week with a win over Yale. Yale actually has a chance as well to clinch a share of the Ivy League title as well as Dartmouth still does as well. So Yale would clinch a share with a win over Harvard, and Dartmouth needs Yale to beat Harvard and Dartmouth to beat Brown on their own. So still great. And this is what I want to say about Harvard, Yale, and the Ivy League. If you're a college football traditionalist like me, I recommend you start to follow the Ivy League football in the future. It is the last true life of college football as we knew what it began as, and it's just simple. I mean, their season is 10 games. It's basically conference games. The conference title is everything, and it's built on rivalries. The year finishes on rivalries. They don't compete in the FCS postseason. All that matters to them is their bubble, their rivalries, and everything they have. Like I said, they always end, and I respect it. And ultimately, the reason they don't compete in the postseason, if you want to know, it kind of falls on academics. But obviously, it's the Ivy League. But let's get into the games. This game, I think, will come down to the QB battle and a lot of rushing. I'll get into that. But what I mean by that is who is able to stay composed and make the plays when needed. Jaden Craig, the backup for Harvard, he took over for Charles DePrima, and Craig has actually led the Crimson offense well in his last 2 weeks when he's had to start, and he finished off Dartmouth when he had to come in for that win when DePrima started not playing too well. So we'll see how he holds up in the biggest game he's played. A chance against your biggest rival and a chance to clinch an outright conference title. Now on the Yale side at QB, boy, we got Nolan Grooms, the reigning Ivy League offensive player of the year. I apologize, who leads the Ivy League in touchdown passes, and he also has 155 passing efficiency, which also leads the Ivy League. And he's been very careful with the ball this season. Not really many turnovers outside of the Brown game. Basically, half his turnovers came in one game. He has 7. He had 3 interceptions, I believe, in the Brown game. So with that, and I want to say what I meant by a lot of rushing. We'll decide this outside of QB play, but they kind of go hand in hand. Both these teams like to run the ball, and they split carries, but they split carries with their quarterback is the way to put it. And the Crimson offense ranks number 1 in scoring offense. They lead the conference in rushing offense as well. You have your running back, Shane McLaughlin for Harvard, who's an absolute dog. 142 carries for 780 yards, averaging 5.5 yards per carry, along with Craig, the quarterback, the backup who has come in for DePrima, who does run quite a bit. The thing is, he has 48 carries for 140 yards, which isn't a lot, but the key for him rushing, he has 6 rushing touchdowns since he's played 2 games. 6 rushing touchdowns is impressive. And then you have a receiver. Your receivers have been there all year for you for Harvard. So it'll be on Craig, like I said, to play off of his run game and also use his legs in the red zone and hit the passes that he's supposed to. Now for Yale, like I said, Nolan Grooms, absolute dog. And he has 123 carries for 576 yards on the year. And he also has that with the running back duo of Joshua Pitzenberger and Trey Peterson, who both have over 300 yards themselves, who are fantastic. And the big key here in this game, like I said, the key was the rushing, but it is. But there's one player in this game that could decide this entire thing outside of the quarterbacks. His name is Mason Tipton. He's Yale's wide receiver who has 776 yards receiving, 14.9 yards average per catch. He's had 10 touchdowns on the season, and he's basically stepped up in every big game. Last week versus Princeton, he had 10 catches for 130 yards, and he's had over 100 yards receiving for these last 3 weeks. So Harvard shut him down which says a lot because you still have to deal with Nolan Grooms and that rush game with Pitzenberger and Peterson. So it's a lot, but you can't let that guy beat you over the top. I mean, that just absolute dog. Like I said, I've said that word too many times this episode, but for Yale, let him go off, man. Open up your run game to be able to just light it up to Mason Tipton. But I believe this game will be a race to 30. Both these teams can put up points. I think whoever hits the 31st will, not the 31st, the 30 points first will win this game. But here's my pick. I got Harvard coming out on top in Yale Stadium for an outright Ivy League title. This will be a fantastic game, tradition, an incredible uniform matchup, the third oldest college football game in history. Don't miss out on this game. FCS football is just as good as FBS football. Don't treat it differently. This will be a great football game. If you enjoy college football, this is the place for you. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment for the algorithm as well. Enjoy your weekend and have a great weekend of college football.